Hi everyone, I'm David Aragona, and this is the August 30th edition of Horses to Watch, where we carefully analyze trips from the past week, looking for horses that encountered adversity and could be worth betting back when they run back in the future. This week, I'm taking a look at 3 replays from last weekend at Saratoga. Actually, 2 from Travers Saturday, though not the Travers Stakes itself. 1 stakes on the undercard of that Travers Day Saturday, as well as a race that took place later in the day after the Travers, and then 1 race from Sunday, a maiden event that looked like it contained a pretty talented field going in, and there could be some also-rans worth following out of that race. But let's begin with that stakes race from the Travers Day undercard. It is race 10 on August 27th, the Grade 1 Sword Dancer, going a mile and a half on the inner turf course. Let's break these runners from the starting gate, and I want to focus on a horse that I thought arguably ran the best race in here, and that is the number 10 Mira Mission. A lot going on in this race that I'll kind of talk about throughout, in addition to what's happening with Mira Mission, who was up close to a pretty honest pace. You might have also noticed that the number 3 Broom, who was the pretty strong favorite in this race at 3-2, broke a step slowly coming out of the starting gate. He was the one that broke about a half length to a length behind the field, and that just kind of basically took away his best chance right at the beginning, because he's not a horse that wants to do his best running from so far back, though I think being towards the back of the pack was to the advantage of a few runners in here, because the horse that's on the front end, Tribhuvan, who has a lot of early speed for the Chad Brown barn, he sets a pretty enterprising pace on the front. As I said, this is a 12-furlong race, so you typically need to reserve some speed for the end of the race. And while the field is getting pretty strung out here, you can see that the leaders, they're not going after each other too much, but Tribhuvan is just a naturally fast horse, and he tends to pull runners along to go a little bit faster than they really want to go in the middle portion of a race. And that's kind of what's happening here as they head around the second turn into the backstretch. You're going to notice he's going to start to create some separation on the field, especially as they go towards the end of the backstretch. And take notice of the placement of the number 10 Mira Mission, who is the horse that is currently in 4th place in those light blue silks on the outside. He is in closest attendance to the pace of all of the horses that are involved in the finish. The others who are effective in this race are all farther back. Gufo, admittedly the winner of this race, isn't as far back as some others who take real advantage of the pace coming apart at the end. But the horse who eventually finishes 3rd, Soldier Rising, he's in last place right now. It's actually going to pass most of the field to get up for 3rd, but do watch the number 10 Mira Mission, who is currently still in 4th as they head into the far turn, because he is going to be the horse that kind of breaks the race open right here as he makes that first move after that leader, Tribhuvan. You can see Tribhuvan's creating some separation on the field here, and there goes Mira Mission to make that first move after that rival, and he is going to take the lead and actually open up on this field a little bit as they come into the stretch. And I think it took a lot of energy to make this move when he did, and he's going to pay the price as they come to the final furlong of this 12-furlong contest right here. You can see he's got this advantage coming to the 8th hole, but he's just going to get pretty lively as all of the other runners that were involved in that pace. You can see them just dropping off the screen one by one, and those 3 that were sitting at the back of the pack range up on the outside, and it is Gufo who gets up to pass Mira Mission at the very end of this race. I thought this was a really admirable effort by Mira Mission, a horse who had never raced beyond a mile on an 8th before, so stretching out the extra 3 furlongs here in the Sword Dancer, he actually handled it really well and could be a force over these marathon distances in the future if he gets a slightly more conservative ride from Julien Lebreu. Not that I'm knocking Lebreu's ride in this race. I think he did what he had to do, given the post position. You want to get forward and over and save some ground on the turns. Just given the way the race flowed and it played out, it was not able to work out in a victory for Mira Mission last Saturday. Let's go on to the final race of that Travers August 27th day card. It was race 13, an allowance N1X going a mile on the inner turf course for the fillies and mares. Let's break these runners from the gate, and I want to focus on the head-on replay of this race, and we're going to look at the horse in the light green cap in the middle. That's the number 6, Salima, with those white sleeves as well. And you can see in the early portion of this race, look at her just throwing her head about. It's just kind of going up and down in the air. Her head is Arad Ortiz is trying to get her to settle in behind runners, and she is just resenting that restraint. And you can see he's just never able to quite get over to the inside. He's trying to save some ground heading into the first turn, but she's just a little bit too keen for him to really get her to settle far back enough to get over to the rail. And as they round the entire clubhouse turn and head onto the backstretch, you can see she's about 3 wide here, and she's actually going to proceed in that 3 to 4 path for the entire entirety of her trip. And just given the fact that she was fighting her rider a little bit at the start of this race, it's not the kind of situation where a horse is going to be able to mount a successful closing bid, because typically, especially in these 1 mile races on the inner course, where so much of the race is contested around turns, you need to save ground at some point and get your horse to settle to have that sprint finish, which is so effective over this distance. You can see as they head into the far turn here, she's still 3 to 4 wide. She has that horse at the back of the pack in that lime green cap, and you can see Irad's trying to get her to move up a little bit by shaking the stick at her a little bit, but it's hard to make up ground when you're losing ground to horses that are moving inside of you. And you can see she gets pushed even wider here, widest of all, coming off the far turn there by that rival in the purple cap to her inside that was drifting out coming to the quarter pole. And from here on out, Arad is just going to basically shake the whip at her, and just not a whole lot of effort being exerted as they come onto the finish line. Just not the kind of trip that was going to be successful given the way this race played out. And furthermore, she was coming off a pretty lengthy layoff here. This was just the second start of her career. This Irish-bred daughter of El Kabir, actually a horse that ran the U.S., but I think is standing overseas. She was pretty impressive, Salima, in her lone prior start at Tampa Bay Downs. Didn't get much of a speed figure that day, but looked like one with potential coming back off the layoff. Just don't think things really worked out for her. If you look at the Trackist data, she covered 31 more feet than the winner of this race, 57 more feet than the runner-up, who saved ground for much of her trip. So given the ground loss, I think that she's one that will run a lot better second off the layoff for trainer Chad Brown. Let's move on to Sunday, August 28th, and look at race 6. This was a maiden special weight event for the 2-year-old fillies going 6 furlongs. A lot of debut runners in this juvenile maiden race, and let's break these runners from the gate. We're going to focus on one of those first-time starters, the number 3 Soledad, who breaks towards the back of the pack. You can see she gets taken up a little bit after a slightly slow break right there, and she finds herself in last place soon after the start. That is her, the gray filly with those white and red OXO silks, and she's going to try to move up a little bit down the backstretch, but her rider, Junior Alvarado, is doing the right thing after that slow break, trying to get her to settle a little bit, give her an education. If the race comes apart and they get lucky, that's great, but given the slow start, you just basically want to give these horses a good experience first time out by not rushing them into the race and exerting so much energy in the opening quarter mile. But this was just a race that was dominated towards the front end, so she never really has a chance to get seriously involved. But do note she's traveling in the bridle pretty keenly, moving around the far turn, going wider than some of her other foes who saved a lot more ground successfully towards the inside. And you can see coming to the top of the stretch here, she is just covered in dirt. She took all of that kickback through the first portion of the race, and she's actually going to finish up decently despite having to run through that kickback on a day when speed did do pretty well at Saratoga. Of the 4 dirt races, I think 3 were won in gate-to-wire fashion, and even the winner of the Ballerina, the feature race of the day, was up close throughout. So not a whole lot of effective closing going on this Sunday card at Saratoga. And Soledad stays on decently to get up for 6th in this race. Again, not making up a significant amount of ground on the winner, but just staying on like a horse that probably is going to benefit from this experience. Like I was saying at the top of the show, I think that there were a lot of intriguing first-time starters heading into this race, but a few going out for barns that aren't really known for winning on debut. So I think there are some horses in this race, Soledad among them, who should benefit from this first run and improve in subsequent starts. The number 2, Nurse Kringle Dance, is another horse you might want to watch out of this race, as well as the number 7, Quiescent. You can go back and watch their trips as well, but Soledad is the one that I thought had the toughest go of it and should really benefit from this first start when she runs second time out for trainer Bill Mott, hopefully at the Belmont at Aqueduct meet in about a month's time. So that is all for horses to watch this week. If you want to follow these horses moving forward, you can add them to your horse watch on DRF.com and get email notifications when these horses run back in the future. Thanks for tuning in this week, and make sure to catch future episodes of Horses to Watch on upcoming Tuesdays during the Saratoga meet.